Star Wars Rebels Season 4 Episodes 5 and 6, The Occupation and Flight of the Defender. Both really good episodes. This time I feel like they didn't connect as much as the other two, simply due to the fact that the titles were actually different for each episode. And you can kind of tell that the stories were, if this weren't the final season, this is definitely one of those episodes where it was, or these two episodes I guess, I could easily see them playing in 2 different weeks, because the first story was like, okay, we have the team of the Ghosts, they're actually going to Lothal, they're finally getting there. Ezra has, this feeling, like he senses something wrong with the Force, and then when they get back to Yavin 4, it's like, hey, we received this message a few days ago, and it's a message that ends up cutting out, and it's like, oh man, we need to go to Lothal, like, we need to find these people, we need to get to Ryder, because something is going wrong. So I like the way the mission played out. Also, Sabine changed her hair color. I thought they were staying the same, but they actually changed it in this episode where she is like, it's almost one color. It's like the first time I think they've had it so similar, outside of the time she like legitimately had her hair completely black when she was going to the when she did like the Imperial Academy thing again. So aside from that, this is the darkest we've actually seen her hair. So I was like, oh, that's cool. It's interesting. It's like, I think it goes from black to like a little bit of purple. It's like, it's really weird to see it with like where it's not like vibrant and or something like that. But they do make a pretty cool callback to all the characters when Ezra and Sabine first get on Lothal, and they see all the wanted posters that they have, and it's Ezra from like season 1, and it's Sabine from season 1, where she has different hair color, and he has like the longer hair instead of the short cut. I was like, that's actually kind of funny. Kanan before, of course, his eyes were cut, so it was just the old version of him. I was like, that's actually kind of cool. They don't really focus on it. I kind of wish they did, but you can still see it even at the angle that they were standing at. But I thought that was kind of cool. I was like, oh, that's nice with them being in the final season. It's like, here's a little poster to, kind of where they started on Lothal before, really going out into the rest of the galaxy. And I was like, that was actually pretty cool. It's a nice little throwback to season 1. But it was a simple first episode. They get to Lothal. They reference Hondo. We actually get to see, I can't remember this character's name, but I do remember, like visually, I remember that character. So they work with him, and they're able to just barely get onto Lothal because, of course, they got scanned. And it was like, okay, we have a bunch of unregistered heat, thermal signatures, so let's let them land, and then we search it, and then of course we'll find, whoever this guy is smuggling. So they use Zeb to like scare these little inflatable pigs, which I thought was a hilarious scene, because I thought they were just gonna run through the ship and like, distract the guys. I didn't know they were gonna like explode basically and just expand like that, and they were just bouncing around. So I was like, that's actually kind of funny. So that allows for the team to escape, and then that lets them kind of split up and do what they need to do to actually find Ryder, find old Joe. So it was definitely pretty cool. It was definitely a good episode with them going to, going back to Lothal and seeing everything. Like, even just from when they get to the actual planet, it's like, what is wrong with this guy? It was like the first thing that Ezra said. I was like, that's actually a pretty cool line. Like, this is his home world, and it's like of course, like when they're looking down at it, the part that's in the background, it's almost like there's an explosion, like there's an actual battle going on, on the planet in that little spot they're looking at. And that I thought was really cool. And when they actually do get to Lothal, it's dark. It's like, it's almost like Fallout. Like there was just so much war and devastation that the sky is like dark all the time. There's just clouds all the way over the planet. And I was like, that's actually really cool and kind of depressing as well. Like, this is his home planet, and they go back after, such a long time. And it's just a disaster. It's not that really that way around the whole planet, but when they first get there, like that specific part of the planet, it just looked devastated, like it was just war-torn. And like that's really what it was. It was just devastated, and there were basically like no people. They showed like a couple of civilians, I think, throughout the whole episode, and it was just like, man, there's like no one here but the Empire anymore. They have like, like the curfew, that's mostly why they don't show the citizens, but the way they made it feel was just like desolate. Like it was almost like everyone was just dead and the Empire just took the planet. It was like, this is actually a really cool way to kind of show, what it looks like. Because typically, you go through Star Wars and they'd be like, oh, the Empire's taking over this planet or something. And you have people who are just like, okay, no big deal. Let's, the Empire's taking over, but we'll work with them. And then you have like the rebels on, whatever planet that might be. And in this case, it was just like, there was, it was almost like that rebel element was completely gone. And that's actually exactly what the case was. And I love truly getting to see that, because that's not something that's really shown off too much in the movies. It's always like, the Empire is here and maybe they destroy this planet, or, they land on this planet, but it's never like the planet's there and then, we see that progression over time where it's like, this is what Lothal looked like in season 1, versus now where, at least that specific portion was kind of war torn, and the city itself has a curfew, so you don't see anybody. It's almost like a creepy ghost town where the citizens, don't really exist at night. And I just thought that was a really cool way to show that off. And of course, Ezra and Sabine end up going into the bar, and it's supposed to be like, oh, it's old Joe's, the Empire is not really welcome here, that sort of thing. And then you see how it's changed so much, where the Empire has completely taken over. Like, it's just the Empire, especially with the whole curfew deal going on. So I thought that was just really cool. And it was just like, man, I like seeing this sort of devastating change, within this planet. So I love the way they handled that. I thought it was really well done. Ezra and Sabine ultimately ended up getting saved because they were about to just leave. And, of course, they have to, pay for the drinks and stuff. And so they end up being saved by, I forgot the character's name, but I know it's the voice actor for Zuko from Avatar, so Dante Bosco, ends up saving their lives by, paying off their drinks, and they take off. And he's like, yeah, I was basically sent to the bar in the hopes that you guys would actually be here. That was like the whole point of me being in the bar, is that someday you would come back, and then I could signal for a rescue. And then the team ultimately ends up reuniting. Everybody's running through the sewers, and they had a great, I thought that was actually a really cool action set piece where it was like, all right, we need to split up because they're tracking us down. So they split up, and so we have Ezra, Sabine, and Zeb, and I think his buddy was with Kanan and Hera and Chopper. So they all split up, everybody, one team gets a Jedi. And so they're going through, they're trying to figure out, like, how in the world do we get out of these tunnels? And then Chopper figures out that Sabine's symbol is actually being used as the way, to kind of guide them. So both teams figure that out, and they end up going to the same location, and they basically get trapped. And I love the visual representation of that scene. I thought was great, where you have Ezra on one side, you have Kanan on the other, and they're just deflecting blasts, and it's like, we don't know where to go, we're stuck, and they're, just blocking. And they're blocking and shooting. There's just a bunch of stormtroopers, constantly coming in. And eventually Chopper's able to, he looks up and is like, oh, that's our way out. So, Ezra ends up hopping up there. He slashes the controls to get the ladder to drop down. And it's like, all right, so we'll have Ezra still defending, Kanan still defends, and everyone else kind of climbs up. And then Sabine gets stuck at the top. And it's like, well, I can't open it now because Ezra slashed the controls just to get the ladder down. But fortunately, Ryder comes along, helps everybody out, and then Kanan and Ezra kind of end it off. And they have a cool moment, too, where when they jump out of the pipes, they both like reflect a blast. I was like, that was actually a really cool way to do that, where they just do like a force jump, and it's just like they reflect downward as they're flying up. So I thought that looked really cool, and that pretty much ended out the first part. They end up finding Ryder. It's like, all right, he's actually alive, everything's good, and they kind of go on to part 2, which is this new TIE Defender, which was actually super, super cool. Like, I loved the second part. I liked the second part more than the first part. Even though I enjoyed the first part for sure, some of the stuff they showed, the second part I was like, this is actually super sweet. I mean, they introduced, not only did we get to see Thrawn like physically come back to like deal with the actual heroes, which was great, because he did show up in the premiere like in a physical representation, but he wasn't like there with the heroes or anything like that. He was just like he was just in a random spot talking to one of the other villains. So it was really cool to see him actually show up, and it's like, crap, Thrawn is here, so what are we going to do? But they have to deal with him. They end up flying around in this new TIE Defender, which is like insanely fast. It has like 6 ports for blasters. It has, I think it had like 4 ports for missiles and stuff. So that thing, ultimately, if they end up rebuilding it, that's going to be a huge issue for them to deal with later on in the season, which I thought was really cool. But, they go through the whole episode, and there's kind of this recurring little thing where they bring back like the little the wolf cats, which I thought was pretty cool. And so I was just like, yeah, they kind of like me, and they help distract the stormtroopers, who, it was really funny. I forgot about them during like that whole crazy sequence, but when Ezra and Sabine were flying away, and then they cut back to the 2 stormtroopers and they chased them all the way out of the base, that made me laugh, because I was like, I totally forgot. Like, it made sense. Like, oh, they're chasing them, and then it's like, oh, crap, things are going crazy. But then it cut to them, and they were still chasing these little cats. The base was so far away. It was like, screw it, we chased them too far. And then it was like, you hear something, and then the ship flies over them and knocks them down. And it was just so funny. I was like, they actually chased those things that far out just because, they jumped on their faces. So it was super funny to me when they cut to them, and I was like, I forgot that they were doing, I never would have thought that they were still running. I just thought, okay, they run away, no big deal. They were distracted for a little, and then things got chaotic. they're stormtroopers, so everybody's wearing the same outfit. They could have been one of the other stormtroopers there, and that was just not the case. So that really made me laugh when they cut back to them after Sabine and Ezra were making their escape in the TIE Defender. But that whole sequence I thought was really cool. Ezra was, he was deflecting blasts. He was shooting with his blaster. He was doing the force jump. They loved like having him jump over a bunch of like little cargo crates and stuff, because he did that in the premiere. Well, I mean, it was for like half a second, but the part where he jumped and like fell in between the boxes. But he did that a bunch in this, and he was like jumping on things and like the little cargo mover thing, the little floating mover. So he jumps on that and he's like blasting people, and then he launches off of that and he's like diving over boxes and knocking stuff down and falling on his back. And he's just trying to survive. Like, there's so many people coming at him. He's just deflecting and shooting and jumping, force jumping all over the place. So I love that. I was like, this is actually really cool. And then Sabine is able to take the ship, which I was hoping she would, because when everything got crazy, I was like, I really hope she gets to take the ship. And of course she does, and she like just blasts the guys, and then he does, he jumps onto the ship, and so they take off. And we find out basically right at that point, it's like, oh, this ship has a kill switch that stops them from, stops any of the rebels from actually stealing from the Empire. And it totally makes sense. It's like, that's just a logical step. Just have a kill switch, which we find out later is doesn't just turn it off. It just pops the wings off, which I was like, that's even more dangerous. Like, I thought it was just gonna like shut everything down and they would have to like crash land. It was like, nope, you are in like a ball and that's all you got. You're just gonna plummet to the ground and die. And I was like, wow, that actually would have destroyed them if it weren't for the fact that Sabine stopped them at the last second when they had that one wing, and it allowed them to have like a little bit of glide. But we find out that it has the kill switch, and Thrawn's like, of course he's doing this creepy evil thing, and it's like, no, like, let's let this play out, scramble your pilots, let's see, this is perfect for combat tests, let's see how this plays out. And I thought that was really cool. It was like, they're flying and everything, and Ezra's kind of just going nuts as Sabine is trying to, take the transponder out. So he's flying around, and, they're diving and stuff. Like, she was like just bouncing around all over the place. Like, he was diving and he was like hitting the brakes basically to have the ships fly past him, and then he would shoot them up and stuff. And it was really cool. Like, they're flying through all these rocks and stuff. So it was definitely a great sequence, and they're flying through, and eventually he takes them down. And Thrawn, of course, is going through, and it's like, okay, so who in the world is behind, who's piloting the ship right now? And they're like, well, it must be, Captain Syndulla. And he was like, no, if it was her, then the pilots wouldn't have lasted this long. It's like, he already knows this crew so well, because that's how calculating he is. He knows that it's a skilled pilot, but it can't be Hera, because she would have just like wiped him out in half a second, because that ship is basically, it's near perfect. And Hera, being the pilot that she is, if she had control over that ship, it would have been like nothing. It would have been 2 seconds and it's done. So it was just really cool, and it was like that allowed for him to realize how useful the TIE Defender is. He's like, okay, if someone of, Ezra Bridger's caliber can take out your pilots, then we're definitely going to have a huge advantage over the Rebellion once we start to mass produce these things. Because he knew that it was Ezra piloting, and he knew that it was like, oh, it's the Mandalorian that's, taking out the transponder and all that stuff. He was like, okay, that's who it is. That's, you can't have someone fly and do that at the same time. So it's like, okay, if someone took that out, it has to be the Mandalorian, which means it's Ezra that's flying. So I thought that was really cool. I definitely love that, him being the evil calculating genius that he is. And then, of course, once everything's figured out, I was like, all right, this will definitely, help us out as far as the Rebellion. So, kill switch. And then the wings just start popping off. So, of course, Sabine's able to stop it at the last second, so they do have a crash landing. They end up stealing the hyperdrive, which I thought was kind of funny that they took it because they needed it. But it was like they're just slowly dragging it along. And as they go through, Ezra continues to see like this. He sees like this wolf. Like, he saw it early on in the episode, right before he was about to get shot. And then he sees the white wolf cat, and then he sees the wolf again. So it was very interesting with this weird spirit of this wolf, because it's like, it's kind of physical. I mean, it's definitely a physical thing, but it only seems to show up to, force sensitive people, because of course, even when it was like right behind Sabine, she turns around and then it basically like breathes some gas on her, and she just passes right out. And when she wakes up, she says, all I remember is you saying wolf. And that was pretty much it. But, he ends up climbing, he puts Sabine on, he gets her helmet, and gets the flight recorder, and then he hops on, and this thing is just shooting through the forest, or shooting through the desert. I don't know why I said forest, but it's shooting through the desert, and it's, dodging all the spotlights in the middle of the night, and then it gets them back to camp, really early in the morning. So I thought that was actually really cool. It was like, all right, this is simple. A bit of a mystery there, without, not even a bit. That's a huge mystery, I would say, because at first it was like, okay, it's like this weird, force sensitive thing that he sees this wolf, and that's kind of weird, but okay, it's Star Wars. Sometimes there are things where it's just like you see some stuff that's there because you're force sensitive, and it's just a little weird. It got super weird when it was like, cool, thanks for helping us out. And then it's about to talk and it says doom, and then it cuts off, and I was trying to figure out for the life of me what that could mean. Because especially I was watching it with subtitles, it wasn't like doom, like doom and gloom. It was like DUME. And then it was supposed to be like something else. And granted, those are subtitles, they could be wrong because sometimes they leave words out and add words in, so they could have just been misinterpreting it, but I think typically that those are correct. So it did make me wonder what he was about to say. Like, he stopped in the middle, and it's just like, what is about to happen? Unless it really was supposed to just be doom, like DOOM, and whoever was doing the captioning just assumed it was supposed to be something else. But I'm assuming the captioning was right, and the wolf was about to say something else. I just have no idea what it could be. I was trying to think, I was like, of all my Star Wars knowledge, like, what starts with DUME? So I just got nothing. I was like, I can't really figure out what that's supposed to mean. So it might be something that hasn't exactly been revealed yet. That's a Star Wars thing, like, kind of, being able to see into the future is something that Force users can do. And this wolf being sort of this mystical thing that does exist, that people haven't seen for centuries, that sort of deal, it kind of makes sense that it would have some sort of connection to the future, something like that. So I don't know what it means, but I thought that was a really cool way to end it out. I was like, all right, there's definitely some mystery here. We don't really know how long they're going to actually be on Lothal, but considering what they did with the wolf in the second episode, I imagine we'll get to see a little bit more Lothal before things are kind of said and done, and we'll get to see whatever that wolf was talking about. I think will probably be on Lothal. It could just be anywhere in the future because it's the future. Like I said, Force users are able to sometimes sense that sort of thing, and this seems to be like definitely a force sensitive creature. So there's just so many ways they could possibly go with that, but definitely a great way to end it and kind of add this small little element in where it's like, all right, this is a thing that people don't typically see on Lothal. It's definitely a force sensitive creature. So what is that going to lead to for future events with the Ghost team being on Lothal? So looking forward to that. Maybe we'll see some more in the next episode. Maybe that'll come back later in the season. They'll leave Lothal and then end up coming back much later on. So maybe that's how it'll end up playing out. It's something for far in the future. But either way, I thought it was really cool. I did enjoy both these episodes, but I'll definitely have to say I like the second one more just because of that weird mystery, and the action was great too. I love the action and them flying in the TIE Defender, but also the force sensitive mystery of what's the deal with this wolf, and Ezra having this this odd connection that even Kanan didn't have, because they were like walking away and then we see the wolf kind of pop up again, and it was like just right there. So it just makes me wonder exactly what's going on there, why it was so connected to Ezra, but even though Kanan believed him, it was just something that he hadn't, it didn't connect with him. So definitely makes me wonder what's going on there, but I really enjoyed both. Of course, we'd love to know what you guys thought about these episodes, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about them, your least favorite parts about them, and I would love to know if you guys have any theories on what in the world is the deal with the Loth Wolf. I would love to hear them. It's just interesting. It's hard to say where that's going to lead to, especially considering with this being the final season. Is it going to lead to something good? Is it going to lead to something bad? Is it going to lead to something that's not even relevant? It could be something super minor that's just a cool story, which I wouldn't hate that either. But it definitely makes me wonder, like, what force-based, connection are we going to have revealed to us because of this wolf and its connection to Ezra? So I would love to know your theories on what this wolf could lead to. And just anything you guys are thinking of with that. And like I said, I definitely want to know what you guys thought about these two episodes in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.